Welcome to the SOB radio show, where we have fun, interesting guests, and hot topics. Each week, we offer insights into music, fashion, health, fitness, and humor. Do you have the perfect guest for us to interview? I want to know. Drop me a line on our Facebook page at Spunky Old Broad 1 or reach out to me on our website at spunkyoldbroad.com. And now, back to the show. We're back with Dinah Lin, and you can see how fascinating she is and what an amazing life she's led and what an amazing life she's continuing to lead. So I want to ask you, since you've been through all of these experiences, you've been through love and marriage, you've been through divorce, you've been through kids, you've been through high-powered jobs, you've been through, all kinds of different experiences in various countries. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned and that you'd like to pass on to people?
Well, you know, I think this came to me when I was writing my memoir, because I was doing reflections all along the way while I was writing. And I realized of all the many lessons, and there are many, if I had to name just one, I would say the most important lesson I've learned is to listen to my heart. And, that took years for me to learn that, because I purposely tried, and I was very, very left-brained, especially during the corporate years. I remember making a conscious decision. I remember this, that I would never use the word feel in a memo. It would always be I think. It would never be I feel. I consciously made sure that I never went there. And the other thing, Gayle, that you mentioned before the break about happy, I remember asking myself, am I happy? And then I thought, who has time to be happy? I mean, it's like I said to myself, what does happy have to do with it? There was a period, it's been a journey and it's been growth. There was a time when I really even felt guilty if I played. I thought that was frivolous, so unproductive to play. So it's been a real journey for me to get to where I am. That's for sure.
Do you think that was because of the structure you were raised in, or do you think that's because that kind of was your personality style?
I know that even as a young child, I felt that I needed to spend more time studying, definitely more time studying than playing. And this is even as a very young child. I felt that was the way for me to get straight A's in school and to do something that would make my parents proud. And I think that it served me well. It obviously served me well. And during my corporate years, I felt like, I needed to, it was subconscious that I needed to catch up because I was getting a late start. I was like about 16, 18 years older than my colleagues because starting my career much later. So I think it was
which just goes to show you, though, that people who say, you have to really start all of this and get this by 25 and this by 30 and this by 25, it doesn't have to be that way. And, it's interesting because all I ever had on my mind was play. Now, I really did. I mean, I knew that I wanted to be in business for myself. I knew that I could never work for anybody because I was too independent. But it was all about dancing and singing and being on stage. And at 3, I was in my first dance recital, and I even had an incident there that I stopped the music and waited for the piano player to stop. And I was number 1. I was January through December. There were 12 of us in this little thing. And I did a somersault and my crown fell off. And I put it on evidently backwards, and the entire audience started laughing. And my mother told me that I put my hands on my hips and told the piano player to stop and refused to go on until everybody calmed down. So she said, then I knew I would never have to worry about you, Gayle. But my whole thing, and I got good grades not because I wanted to, but because it was expected. And I was intelligent, so I could. But now, see, there's the difference. My sister is intellectual. I am intelligent. Now, she's both. She's intelligent. In fact, she has a genius IQ, but I'm intelligent, not intellectual. And there is a difference. So it just shows you how, but what's amazing, Dinah, for you is that you have flipped. You have you have done these things that you never thought you would do. And that is so encouraging. So since you've already realized a lot of dreams in your life, what's your next one?
I have I was going to say a secret dream. I don't, well, I say secret. I may have verbalized it kind of lightly to a friend or two. I dream I'm being in the red circle. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't. So tell us
they
all.
call it the red circle. It's TED, the TED Talks.
Oh, the TED Talks.
And I've recently started listening. Well, I mean, I've always listened to TED Talks, but recently started listening to some podcast that talks about how you might get, if you're interested in becoming a TED Talk, speaker. And they refer to it as the red circle.
Well, I have a very dear friend who started the TED Talks and coaches people on how to do them. So if you ever need a name, I will be glad to give you her name. So just let me know. But
Okay.
That's wonderful. I think that's fantastic. And so once you get into that red circle, which I have no doubt you will,
Thank you.
what then? What then?
Well, I'm going to leave that for after I get. I think, and this brings to another point, which is I used to, especially in my corporate years, I used to be so future oriented. I mean, during my, when I first started out my career, I had for myself my 3-month goals, my 6-month goals, my 9-month. I gave myself a review every 3 months to cover what have I learned, what have I gone through, what else did I need to. I think this was part of the the subconscious plan I had for climbing the corporate ladder, as fast as I could. And so this is the other thing. Consciously, I have, pulled back from being so future to the point where I really feel we should live. I, for myself, practice living in the moment, to be more present, to not spend so much time, Have you read that wonderful book, Now? What is it? No.
Yes.
By Eckhart Tolle.
Right. The Power of Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's, and I think that comes with age too. I think that as we age, we reflect more and we dream more because we're so busy making it between whenever and 50. We're so busy, whatever we're doing, we're busy. And, you don't even think you have time to dream. So when you wrote your memoir, Daring to Dream Once Again, It's Never Too Late, and you said it was a dream come true, what was that experience like for you?
Wow, it was both ecstatic and excruciating. I have to say that. I had a dream for years, for decades, of writing a book. And of course, all those years that I was very busy, it was always just at the very back of my mind, sort of like on the back burner. And I had no idea what kind of book. And then when I came back from Beijing, it kind of really hit me. I mean, I had a wake-up experience. And I just, I knew that I had to, this was something I had to do. And I still kept telling myself, I don't know what kind of a book I'm going to write. And then I finally decided, okay, I'm going to write a self-help book and I'm going to use examples from my own life. And then when I finally started writing, what really came out, what wanted to come out was just my own story and memoir. And it was so cathartic and therapeutic and transformational for myself to spend the time that I did reflecting back on my life and putting it down. And when I finally decided I was going to do this, it was the scariest thing, Gayle, that I've ever done. I mean, despite everything else I've done in my life, I would say writing a book was the scariest thing. And, you can just go down this rabbit hole of, what if nobody buys it? And what if I get terrible reviews? And, all kinds of scary things. You can really stop yourself. And I just had to break through all that. And I finally, because I had this breakthrough experience, I actually broke down and, they say break down to break through. And I decided it doesn't matter if no one reads this book. I have to write it for myself. I have to. And I have to write it for my children and grandchildren.
So how long did it take you to write it?
There was one break in there. I took 6 months off. I would say about 2 years from start to finish. When you think you're done writing, there's this long process of getting it published. So that
Right.
takes, yeah, that
But
takes a
then,
lot.
but I mean, did you write like hours a day, or did you write 1 hour a day, or how did you
Okay.
actually physically do it?
Well, so Gail, this is a secret. I had to take a, it's funny how we have to take courses and pay people to do things that otherwise we don't do. And there was this lady who gave a course on 15 minutes a day, something like 15 minutes a day to your creativity, or get it done in 15 minutes a day. Sam Bennett, a wonderful lady. And so her whole thing, she had this online course, was you can do anything in 15 if you would just give it at least 15 minutes a day. And it was a matter of breaking down our habits. And I just remember one that sticks with me, of course, forever, is never, ever, ever, ever look at your email first thing in the morning. Yes. I mean, that was like just the cardinal rule. And if you can just get yourself to set a time. And for me, it was, first thing, I mean, after you do the bathroom and the coffee, first thing in the morning. And I would say, and I remember debating with myself, am I going to spend 15 minutes? Do I have 15 minutes? Of course I had 15 minutes, this debate. And then I would start writing. And of course it would be, 30 minutes, 45, an hour. But the secret for me was to consistently every morning, no matter what, to write something.
That's so interesting, yeah, because I have many friends who are authors, and there were people who locked themselves in a log cabin for a weekend.
Yes.
There are people, that rent a hotel room. There are people that get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and from 5 to 6, before anybody that can disturb them, they write. So it's interesting. Everybody has their own process, but the point is to do it consistently. And I suggested, in I think one of my books, if you just take 1 hour a day, or write 1 page a day, that you'll have 365 pages at the end of the year. Now you're going to throw half of them away, but you'll still have 150 good pages. So it can be done, even if it's just to write 1 page a day. That's so interesting.
Very
Okay,
true.
so I want to ask you also, though, about your corporate career. You worked at many, many high-tech startups, and you worked at Fortune 500 companies, plus you worked for the government. So what experience was the most memorable for you?
Hmm. Wow. I feel so blessed that I had so many interesting experiences. I really do. And, I'm going to say, I loved every position that I held. Even if the position itself wasn't all that interesting, I made sure I made it interesting. That
Well,
was,
was it your choice to go from company to company, or was
it
it,
was. Well, I
okay?
mean, mostly it was. Let's face it, some of those high tech, maybe all of three of them, I'm trying to think. Yes, high tech have a way of running out of funding. And you don't join a startup if you're risk averse. That's for sure. It's funny. My career was, started with a Fortune 500. Right after I got my MBA, I went to a Fortune 500 for one reason. I thought that looks good on the resume. And then I decided the corporate culture in a Fortune 500. Of course, I didn't even know the word then. I don't even think they talked about corporate culture. But anyway, it was not a fit for me because I was just too, entrepreneurial and wanted to do my thing. So I went to these high-tech startups, and then at the end of my career, it was a Fortune 500. But what was the question again,
No,
Gail?
well, but what about your government experience? How did you, because that's very rigid. How did you fare there?
That's very rigid. You are so right. That was another dream that I followed and that came true for me. I don't know, it was like 35 years after. The original dream was when I was 17. And I thought I would, after I would go to major in international relations, take the State Department exam, get into the Foreign Service, work my way up, eventually be a diplomat, and work between US and China relations. And of course, that didn't happen. And then this government position, it was one of the high-tech startups ran out of funding. I was in Chicago. So I was packing up, getting ready, and I was going to move to New York and get a job on Wall Street because I thought, with my MBA in finance, I'll get a job on Wall Street, and the heck with all these high-tech startups that run out of funding. And so I was all set to do that. And I remember this so well because This was when George Bush, the father, was just getting elected. And he said in one of his speeches, he said, "A kinder, gentler nation." And, you know, something about that phrase just resonated with me. And something about that phrase awoke in me this dream that I had 35 years ago about wanting to serve in government. And so I just decided that was my time. It was my time. And I was going to do this. And I will say this, Gayle, thankfully, I didn't know anybody. Thankfully, no one sat me down and said, "Dinah, your chances of getting a position in Washington are nil to none." I mean, really, I think the chapter in my book is ignorance can be a blessing. It's a good thing I didn't know that. I had actually no possibility of getting a position. I hadn't worked, you know, I hadn't contributed to the campaign. I didn't work in the campaign. So that's the story, is how I finally got that position. But it was my time to serve. And those 3.5 years in Washington, D.C., when I think back on my whole career, all the positions I had, I have to say in many ways, they were the most fulfilling, because I felt I was able to really serve and help.
Well, it was the question I was asking you, actually, which experience was the most memorable? So you're saying that your time in DC was the time that was the most memorable.
I would say so, yes. If I had to pick, I mean, I think many of my positions were memorable for different reasons.
Right.
But this was memorable because in some way, at some level, it fulfilled a dream that I had, you know, as a 17-year-old, that I wanted to serve. I feel such gratitude for being, yes, I've always, say in some of my speeches, for being both Chinese and American. And to me, being American, being here, growing up here, is a dream. That's a dream. That was, that chapter is called A Mother's Dream, because it was my mom's dream.
But I think it's just amazing. I mean, I am so happy that you are my guest, because so many women believe that when they turn 50, let alone 60, that their lives are over, that they've lost their meaning, that they're not useful anymore, that people don't need them, that they're not respected, that they become invisible. And you are none of those. And you keep taking chances, and you keep, the new word is pivoting. You are constantly pivoting. And it's really an amazing, and I think beautiful story, because and so how did you meet your now husband, or your second husband? Did you meet him back here in the States then?
Oh, yeah. Gayle, I'm laughing because there is no second husband, and there is no now husband. The man that supposedly I came back for, which I say I didn't, that lasted it went downhill as soon after I came back. I think it was better when I was in Beijing. Oh my gosh, yes, no, that ended very quickly. That didn't go on. And I have to say, sometimes I think, yes, it would be nice to have a special someone in my life to travel with, just to be with, to do things with. But I can't bring myself to go on to join one of these online dating, whatever. So
I was listening to something last night, and there was something about one woman, I think she was 49, and she had never been married, and she decided she wanted to get married, and she went on 79 first dates, never a second, until she found the one that she was looking for. It was really an interesting conversation. So,
oh my gosh!
But it's true that very often, and I have, now I have what's called a virtual SOB club on Facebook. People can go on Facebook, and they can, if they go to groups, they can go to virtual SOB club, and it's for women 50 plus. And I always ask them, what is the biggest pain point in your life, and what's the biggest joy in your life? Mm-hmm. And most of them have said, getting to this age, the biggest pain point is people don't well, their ills, their aches, their pains, and things like that.
Mm.
And the biggest joy are their grandchildren. But some of them have said that, they're very happy being alone, and they're very happy being, they had maybe a good marriage, or maybe they didn't have a good marriage, but they're not unhappy living alone. I believe that you can find companionship. You can find someone to do things with, and I'm talking about not just friends, but someone you have a romantic interest in. But you don't necessarily have to live together anymore. You don't have to, it's a different way of life now. And many people are finding that. But I want to make sure, first of all, we've got 5 minutes left. I want to make sure, people know how to reach you. And I don't know if you have a gift for anybody. If you'd like to offer something, it's certainly, you can do that. How can people find out where you are, Dinah?
Well, my website is www.thedinahlin, THEDINAHLIN.com. And I have a personal page on Facebook. So I'm not even quite sure I know my Facebook page, Dinah Lin, I think. And they can find me. And I'm on all the social media. I'm not that active, I have to admit. And I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. No, I never post on Twitter, and LinkedIn once in a while, and Facebook. So those are the ways. And they could actually, I'm happy if they want to write to me, they can say dinah.lin@gmail.com. They could do that, but they should put down that they, refer your program, our conversation.
Okay, so remember now, it's the Dinah, DINAH, Lin, LIN, .com. And you also, that's your Facebook and your Twitter are the Dinah Lin too. So people can find you. If they're looking for you, they'll find you. And I assume that they can get your book on Amazon or somewhere else?
Absolutely, on Amazon. Yes. They can just type in my name and it'll pop right up. Otherwise, Wonderful. It's Daring to Dream Once Again. It's never too late.
And what have we not mentioned or talked about that you would like our audience to know? Because we have about 2-3 minutes left.
Well, I was going to say, I want to say one thing that just popped up because of it's just that it is a journey and it is a process. And you talk about women who give up or who think it's too late or whatever. I would say there's so many resources. Over the years, I can't tell you how many thousands and thousands, tens of thousands I've spent on myself. And I think I've always felt that the best investment we ever make is in ourselves. To take retreats or webinars or seminars or read books, whatever it is that will feed your soul, whatever it is that will feed your spirit. It takes practice. I don't like to say it takes work, but it takes practice to bring yourself to a point where, you have the courage that you would like to have. You're willing to take the chances. So I would like to give the women these words of encouragement. And it's not going to be overnight unless you have a transformation overnight, which happens too, which can happen. That would be wonderful. The other thing I would like to mention is how important I feel a person's attitude is. I really believe attitude is all important. And the most important attitude is gratitude. And so I know that in my darkest moments, that's when I really made sure I wrote in my gratitude journal, just even, 5 things every night. 5, it could be short phrase or word, but I just feel that this gratitude of attitude will see you through. And that's what I would like to say.
Wow, that certainly is very, very true, Dinah. I think all of the things you said, I'm all about mindset, which is attitude. I think, and yeah, like you, I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on learning. And in fact, my son calls me every day from California. And every time he calls, I'm on a webinar or I'm in a conference or I'm in a meeting. And he says, don't you know it yet? But when you stop learning, you stop growing and you stop living. Well, folks, I hope you've
Absolutely.
enjoyed this interview with Dinah. I mean, she's a fascinating woman. And the other point that I think is very important, Dinah takes really good care of herself. I mean, she looks great. She, as you can tell, has a great attitude, very knowledgeable about many things. And that's what it takes. So see if you can find her book. It should be at Amazon. And remember, it is Daring to Dream once again. It's never too late. Go to her set website, which is the Dinah, D-I-N-A-H, Lin, L-I-N. And you'd be surprised. You're going to find a whole bunch of things there that you're going to be very interested in. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Dinah. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, Gayle, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's been so great just having this conversation with you and be able to share with your audience.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.